A lovely evening to all and warm welcome. My name is Matthew Mohan. On behalf of Corisco Solutions, I would like to thank you for joining today's webinar. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, I would request you to please type them into the chat box. I shall consolidate them and take it during as and when it is required. A little introduction about our speaker, Mr. Suhas Shastri. Suhas has overall 18 years of experience, of which 12 are into information security, business continuity, disaster management, and quality management system. Suhas has worked with leading healthcare domain organizations like Access Healthcare Services, Ajuba Solution. His own sole responsibility was into ensure implementation of information security, business continuity, and quality management system. He was one of the founding directors of BCI Chennai Forum. He is a certified CBCI, MBCI, BCC, lead auditor 22301, lead auditor 27001, and a Green Sigma Green Belt certified. A small gist about the topic. With COVID-19 looming large, schools across the globe have adopted the new way of teaching online. Internet is wonderful for kids. They can use it to research reports, communicate with teachers and other kids while play interactive game as well. But online comes with its own risk, like inappropriate content, cyberbullying, and predators using apps and websites pose as a child or teen to make a new friend. The recent data gathered by BBC reveals that abuse imagery has shot up. Reports of obscene online material have more than doubled globally to more than 4 million. Hence, parents should be aware of what their kids see, hear on the internet, who they meet, and what they share about themselves. Without taking any time further, let's start the webinar and learn more from our expert on how to prevent kids from online abuse. Over to you, Suhas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for the crisp introduction. And thank you very much for the participants to have joined in on a Friday evening in helping us raise awareness about preventing online abuse of children. This is brought to you by Phoenix Resilience Series through Corisco's efforts. Thank you once again. So let's see the scenario. Today, most of us do not understand how the systems work and how we have to go about using them. So imagine a situation where you're calling the customer service and the customer service rep is actually giving you information as to how to resolve an issue. You don't understand anything. And then your 5-year-old or 6-year-old is educating you as to how to do that. And you actually put them on the phone to resolve the issue with the customer service rep. Yes, we are approaching that situation where kids are more proficient in using our systems more than us right now. So let's talk about the internet. What is the internet? Internet is actually free. It's just like that kitten in the box that you see. It is free. It is also beautiful and very, very majestic. But it can be very dangerous too and hurt really bad if you use it incorrectly. So you'll have to use it with caution and the respect it deserves. Otherwise, the internet is not your friend. So let's make the internet our friend now. So what are we going to see today? So what we see is how online abuse occurs, why children don't generally ask for help, how do the criminals work online, and most of us believe our kids are good, and most of the time it is true, but why do they actually do bully or participate in cyber abuse? And let's look at how to prevent, the do's and don'ts for both children and adults. And how can you help the participant right now? And we'll also see the laws in India that can help us enforce the protection for children online. So let's first understand what is online abuse. So online abuse is anything that happens online, any harassment, any kind of harassment that is happening online. It is virtual, obviously. The distance is immaterial here. You could be seated in Bangalore and the cyberbully may be sitting in New York and doing all sorts of harassment from that distance, and it is equally effective as he's sitting next door. It is anonymous. You may not know who's actually bullying you because he can employ any kind of avatar. Definitely not face to face, and definitely doesn't require physical contact, and definitely not sexual. It need not be just sexual, rather. So any type of mental tormenting that can scar the mind is an abuse. So anything that can do that is online abuse. So how is it different than face-to-face abuse? Okay, one, and it is more worrisome, obviously, because it is it happens as long as the device is switched on. So if you switch it off for some time and then you switch it on, yes, the abuse is there. Help is not that immediate because most of the time the kid is actually alone and doesn't know what to do or turn for help, and sometimes too embarrassed to ask. The abuse can be recorded and replayed multiple times, and it can go viral as well. And as informed earlier, they can be anonymous with a lot of avatars. So avatars in the sense they may come in anybody's profile names, and the duration in face-to-face is potentially smaller because there is someone always there to stop the abuse. But here, since it can go on forever and ever and in various mediums, formats, and everything. It can happen on your Facebook, then can move on to Instagram, so on and so forth. And gang bullying is rare in face-to-face, but in online, it is very prominent because, for example, racial abuse. So one racist can actually start a domino effect by inviting others and ganging up on a particular individual. So that happens. So it is very worrisome. So remember the blue whale challenge? It came out of the closet after a very, very long time, after a lot of lives were lost. So let's prevent that. Okay, first let's see, what are children doing online when they are not studying? Yes, today, more often than not, people are studying because school demands so. But otherwise, other than that, what are they doing? So a research in 2009, quite a long time ago, showed that children as young as 5 were using the internet without parental supervision. So today, 11 years later, with the advancement in internet and the content that the internet can offer, what else are they doing? So when they are not studying, this is the percentage of children who have visited porn sites. Some kids have gambled. They have used the sites to chat up and meet up strangers, which have not yielded good results. And obviously these days, internet allows the children to cheat. So let's look where all the children can be cyberbullied. Okay, you see, most of the percentages are in mediums like Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. So where you actually post your images is where most of the bullying happens. So your fat shaming, your profiling, racial profiling, or your ethnicity profiling mostly happens in mediums where you actually post your images. So let's ensure or create awareness on how and what type of images that can be shared. Let's go ahead. Why is it so difficult to understand that what a kid is going through, and why are they embarrassed to seek help, or they are scared to seek help, and why is their cry not heard? The cry is there, but why the cry for help is not understood? Or even if it is understood, why is it too late? So let's look at that. So more often now, when most of us are indoors because of COVID lockdown, people are not able to meet outside. So social network forms a lifeline to their peer group. So they need the internet to get that constant touch with their friends and loved ones outside. The second one is they do not want to look unsportive. So if they do not participate in a game which involves name calling, they may be the victim. They may be called unsportive and say, okay, you're not my friend, so on and so forth. So, and then the next main reason that they don't complain is for somebody else's fault, the laptop or device is taken away. So they'll think, okay, if I complain, the thing that they will do is remove my system or remove my smart device. So they say, rather, I just take in that torment and I can still have my system. Mostly they are also threatened by the abuser or criminal, stating that they will harm them or harm their loved ones if they complain. So they will choose to keep quiet. But most of all, they don't even realize that they are being abused in the first place till it's too late. I'll tell you how. Before that, how do you recognize the victims? So if you recognize the signs and symptoms, you will definitely hear their cries for help. So as per the National Crime Prevention Center, US, behavioral changes are primary and most common indicators. So just look out for the following symptoms. Check if they are stressed out. They may be suddenly very defensive. They may be doing self-harm. They may skip activities that they normally do, like going out to play. They may be suddenly very conscious about how they look, how they eat, uh, and they may become very withdrawn themselves. And a major symptom is that they would stop using the computer or the device that they normally use to spend time or study. So if these things happen, you recognize that, okay, there is something wrong, and immediately offer to help. Okay, now let's look at how a criminal casts his net in the online world. So they usually prowl on the sites which kids normally use, mostly the gaming sites, sites where you get popular toys, so on and so forth. So let's look at that and ensure that they don't chat with any of the strangers there. So what they do normally is that they suddenly just strike up a conversation, often pretending to be kids. Okay, kids themselves. Then once they establish contact, they start chatting more and more, and gain confidence to chat on privately on, say, Messenger or WhatsApp, get their phone numbers, start talking. And once they do that, they would groom them to share personal information, pictures, videos, sometimes sensitive. And once the child does that, they fall into the trap, because that information and images that they have provided earlier is used to blackmail, and the child is caught. And more often than not, that child often helps the criminal to cast the net for other kids to be abused. So Mostly, and many of us believe that our kids are good. And yes, most of the cases that is right. But sometimes good kids are catalysts for cyber abuse as well. They contribute to cyber abuse. Let's look at how that happens. It is the same reason why victims generally tolerate abuse in the first place. One is because of peer pressure. If they do not join in, they may become the victim next, and they will not look
Can you
cool
share,
or
please?
supportive in that group. And the fear of not being accepted to the group or the cool group is actually greater than common sense. So the fear versus common sense, fear wins. So that's why most good kids participate. And abusers normally strategize to involve multiple kids to ensure that there is peer pressure always to target someone, and mainly they get pulled on by other friends who are already involved. And as I told you earlier, the abuser or the criminal will use his current victim in his future exploits. So how to recognize a cyber bully? So similar to how victims have telltale signs, cyber bullies too can be identified with their body language and the way they behave. Okay, they suddenly stop using the computer or phone when someone comes near to them. They look nervous or jumpy online, very secretive online. Well, I know these three symptoms is pretty synonymous with people in love secretly, but this also happens with cyber criminals as well. So just have a look out for these symptoms. They spend excessive time online and become very angry when their privileges are removed. And this is very often the case with children more than adults. So because they usually vent out most of their feelings online, and when they are not able to do that, they become angry. So we can recognize these telltale signs in children as well. So have a look at that. So what are the issues that result from being bullied, especially online? So very, very bad results have emerged in the past because of cyberbullying. As harmless as just deleting themselves from social media, to developing suicidal thoughts and beginning to use alcohol and drugs to cope from that depression. So you see the stats here, and they don't make a good reading. So let's work together to ensure that to raise awareness on cyberbullying. So if you are the victim, what should you do? So one, stop all conversation or connection with the cyberbully. So that's the first thing that you do. If you feel that you are being harmed, stop the connection, cut the cord. Report any attempt to the guardian or parent, however silly it is. Sometimes you may feel silly and say that, okay, I'm always complaining. And dear parents, please do not trivialize every complaint of the child. Just have a look to ensure that it is nothing serious. And parents, again, do not punish the children for what the abuser has done. So there's no point in removing the profile or taking away the laptop or device that they use for learning. Just ensure and see how they can be protected. Try to take screenshots for investigative reasons. And definitely, number one priority, do not try to reason with the abuser or the criminal. There are authorities who will do that, and they do it better. And Definitely. Talking about authorities, you have a pan-India child helpline, which is 1098 that you can call anytime, 24/7, if there's a child in distress. Or very own cops, 100, you can call them. Okay, so we spoke about chat. This is where the cyber criminals are prowling, and they are casting their evil nets to capture or fish for young kids and or anybody vulnerable. So it's everywhere, in fact. How will you protect them from chat? So there are many chat mediums. Uh, you have WhatsApp, Messenger, Skype, Telegram, Hi-Fi, Snapchat. I'll probably lose my breath before I complete all the chat mediums that I know. So game sites come with their own chat and chat room features. So there's so many games. So where and all would you actually check for the chat options? And not only chat, most of these websites and applications come with VoIP feature as well. So they can have a call, they can speak to the abuser or to a stranger without the parent actually even realizing it. And more often than not, these chat features come with hide option. So most of these criminals groom the kid or warn the kid saying that, okay, the best way that you can ensure that you continue having the internet privileges is to hide our chat so that you don't get caught. So the child does that. So check for unhide options and see if there's any chat hidden. And these days, kids as young as 5 do coding. So they might as well build their own chat application and start chatting. So, so are we in a game that we can't win? No, it is a game that we can win. So let's see how we can prevent online abuse. So how does a child be responsible? So it's the awareness that needs to be given to the child by us. So let's see what they need to do to ensure that they are not abused online or they are not exposed to any kind of risk online. So don't give out any personal information. Okay, so don't give any photos or sensitive thing to anybody online. If you don't give your photo to a stranger on the road, you will not do that online also. Do not open any emails from an unknown ID. Do not respond to abusive messages. Complain immediately. And definitely do not agree to meet with someone you just met online, whoever they claim to be. Because more often than not, it's not who they claim to be. And set limits for being online. Okay, go out, play, have other activities as such. Do set limits on being online. And as mentioned earlier, report to your parent or guardian if you receive any inappropriate message or email. Okay, so the child's responsibilities are these. So what does a parent do? Yes, technology is definitely available and it will definitely help. Abusers are always going to be there and they are not going to go away. So they will look out for any kind of weakness in the internet, any child who's vulnerable, and exploit it. So as parents and guardians, it is our responsibility to have both technological and non-technical controls that are available to be in place. So keep the child's computer in a common area to monitor their activity. Check your child's browser history frequently, but do it in a way that you do not embarrass the kid. Because if the child is embarrassed, more often than not, they would resort to tactics that to hide many information from the parents. Disable location feature unless absolutely necessary. Do that when you're sending the child to school or back to school or picnic, so on and so forth, just for safety feature. Activate privacy features through your browser or internet service provider. And find out what other computers or devices the child is using. Normally, just one system is not what the child uses. So many times a kid may use the grandparents' phone, friend's phone, because the friend has got a cool game, and so on and so forth. So ensure all the devices that the kid uses is safe, and definitely know their passwords. And at the same time, create awareness to ensure that they do not share their passwords with anybody else. And definitely, as identified earlier, look out for any changes in the child's behavior that may indicate child bullying or online abuse, and counsel. And most importantly, do not neglect if your child is bullying or talking bad about other kids online. Okay, so ensure that you counsel if you're on the other end of the spectrum too. Okay, let's look at what are the different types of safe search engines for the kids. Your normal Google or other search engines that you use are generally not safe for kids because they give everything and everything under the sun. So ensure that a search engine is used where most of the information that is provided or searched is actually safe for kids to consume. So the following are the search engines that can be used. Okay, so most of us are guilty, very guilty, in fact, by giving our phones to our kids when we want to watch our favorite episode or movie, or attend the meeting, or basically just cook. But you can do that. I understand that's a compulsion, but when you do that, ensure that you activate kids space. Okay, most of our online uh, phones come with these features already in place. So this is an Android example. Your Apple too comes with similar features. So what does it do? You can set up duration. You can whitelist or blacklist apps that the kids can actually see. And you can also turn off the mobile connectivity. So just to ensure that the calls, unwanted calls or messages are not sent by the kid by error. You can actually learn more about the smartphone devices by just going through Mr. Musa Miran's blog that was recently uploaded in Phoenix Resilient series. So you can have a lot more information from that blog. The same goes with setting the security system on the child's system. So you can set up parental control as seen on the Windows devices. You have similar settings that can be enabled on your Ubuntu and your Apple devices as well. The most important thing is that you need to. Controls are there on our systems. They just have to be enabled. And remember, it is better to be safe than sorry. So before you give your device to a kid, be responsible and enable parental control to ensure that the kid is protected from the evil eyes online. So I would like to thank you once again for participating in this webinar. And that shows your commitment to help to raise awareness on online abuse. So how can you help? So when you're online and just don't participate in gossip or encourage the rumors that are spread online. If you're not sure about it, do not talk about it. Ensure that you support the victim rather than the abuser. So if you see a victim being harassed, post some positive messages about the victim to discourage the online abuser, because that discourages the good kids from siding with the abuser. So the cloud for the victim grows, and that will reduce online abuse to a certain extent. And C, to that you can help the victim by taking evidence. So more often than not, the victim are very distraught. They do not take evidence. So they usually close the system, or sometimes in extreme cases, they have broken the device altogether. So if you see some hate messages on a particular friend of yours or a friend's child, take a screenshot, approach the parent, give the screenshot to them so that they can raise a complaint with evidence. And remember, we as individuals are not invisible online. Whatever we do, whatever we post can be traced back to us. So practice safe internet practices and ensure that your profile is not hacked. Nobody uses your profile to post hate messages, because you are responsible for what comes out from your profile. So monitor your online reputation. So I'm sure all of us here today agree that the cyber criminal should be punished, especially the ones who are targeting young children or innocent children from abuse and thing. And you will definitely also agree with me that punishment is the best deterrent. But how does one get punished? A, they have to get a complaint. Two, the complaint should be backed up with evidence, because if there's no evidence, there is no punishment. So it's all the more important that you record evidences of cyber abuse so that your kids can be safe and no other kid will be abused by the abuser next time round. So let's see what are the laws in India which will help us in nabbing and controlling this online abuse menace. The POCSO Act of 2012. So it protects children from sexual offenses. And if it is online, the IT Act helps. The Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children's Act of 2015 helps. The Commissions for Protection of Child's Act also helps. There is also a central cybercrime reporting portal, which was launched in September 2018, where you can post any grievances related to a child. Okay, it could be child porn, or it could be abuse, it could be any kind of abusive material that could harm a child or poses risk to children online. So ensure that all these things, all these tools are effectively used to ensure our children are safe and the perpetrators online are punished. Okay, so who are all targeted? Is that a single demographic? Is that a specific age group? Is that a specific region in the world that the cyber criminals target? No, the target is varied. The victims are of all ages. So I will just play a small video to show.
Bizarre story of a couple who say their baby monitor was actually hacked. They say they heard a strange voice saying horrifying things to their 2-year-old coming from the bedroom. How terrifying. Aditi Roy has their story.
They are supposed to keep your baby safe by letting you watch and listen to your child. But baby monitors themselves can be susceptible to misuse, and the wrong set of eyes can end up watching your child.
It felt like somebody broke into our house.
Mark Gilbert says he and his wife heard a strange voice coming from his 2-year-old daughter's room, uttering disturbing messages.
He said, wake up, Allison, you little.
Gilbert says that voice was coming from their baby monitor. He immediately unplugged the device. Gilbert believes someone hacked into his router and the camera and found his daughter's name by seeing it posted on her bedroom wall. He's not the only one who says his baby monitor was compromised. In 2010, Stacey Cass told ABC News how she inadvertently saw her neighbor on her baby monitor after the two monitors may have been on the same frequency and picked up each other's signals.
It was late at night, doing a routine check, turn it on to see my next door neighbor putting his son to sleep as well.
Internet security expert Perry Aftab says with the right set of circumstances, baby monitors can expose your child to the wrong people.
Well, baby monitors come one of two ways. It's something local that has a channel that might be easily compromised. Otherwise, they're Wi-Fi based.
But there are ways to protect yourself. She says if your monitor is Wi-Fi based, hide your Wi-Fi network and make sure it has an ironclad login and password. Gilbert is still too shaken up to plug back in. He now thinks his daughter's safer without the monitor.
I'm supposed to protect her against people like this, and so it's a little embarrassing, to say the least.
For Good Morning America, Aditi Roy, ABC News.
See, the cyber criminal doesn't even leave children less than 2 or 3 alone. So ensure that all your devices are safe, ensure that everything is password protected, and ensure that your children are safe from these devices as well. So with Internet of Things in place, where most of the household appliances going to be under the survey and the power of internet, it's best that you secure your devices everywhere. Okay, there's one more story where a pedophile was arrested in the UK. He was believed to have targeted more than 5,000 children globally. So he's seated in UK and he has targeted children worldwide. And he has also committed sexual offenses on 51 victims. So it is very important to understand that cybercrime on children is real, is very real, and it's happening, and we need to protect them and prevent these things from happening. So we understand that the victims, there is no discrimination at all when it comes to children. They're always prowling online and just waiting for some vulnerable area or a vulnerable kid and trap them. And as you've seen the news earlier, even babies aren't spared. The target happens the other way too. Children can target the parents too. Scary? It happens inadvertently, but it does happen. So how do they actually target the parents? A 6-year-old boy gifts his parent an $8,000 bill by just using their iPad and without them actually knowing. So just imagine the credit card bill and the surprise, the pleasant surprise on the father's face or the mother's face that day. And he would have just thought, okay, it would have been good if I'd seen Gorisko's presentation on child abuse earlier. He could have saved on $8,000. So with that small presentation, I come to the end Yeah, I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Suhas, for giving your valuable insight. I'm sure it was very informative, and I understand now the importance and consequences of it. Let me quickly, summarize the entire session in 2 minutes. So, first of all, we saw the characteristics of online abuse, the difference between face-to-face and online, and then we identified the cry for help and how to recognize the victims, the modus operandi, the abuse, I mean, the predators go ahead in terms of gaining access to children, and the way how they start tracking the mobile and their locations as well. Similarly, we also learned how to recognize cyber bullies with the change in the children's behavioral pattern. Okay, from there we saw the results of cyberbullying in terms of the social media platform, how vast it was, and there again, what as a victim, what is that we need to do, or what we should be doing? How can we bring that awareness, in our kids, in our children's? Okay, and then especially we also learned about the search engines. How can that we can go ahead and help, and finally we saw the laws in India, and definitely even the ways that one can target the parents too. So thank you so much. I'm sure it is very informative. Now I open the line for all the audience. uh, Please, questions. Any questions from the group? Okay, Suhas, by the way, I have one question. We also learned the way how we can technically protect our smartphones in terms of not to give more of exploration to our kids. But having installed such applications, our cell phones are very slow in terms of the function I talk about. So, what are your views on those, Suhas?
See, definitely when you install an app, or when you install an additional app like say an antivirus or something, it will consume space. It will definitely slow down your system. But as I told earlier, it's better to be safe than sorry. Would you give a compromisable device to your kid? It can be slow, it can make the system slow, but would you rather give a compromisable device to the kid, or would you give a safe device to your kid? Okay, you would definitely be able to enable the features which comes along with the phone. So as showed earlier, the privacy features within the phone in Android, you can set up things from there itself, and that wouldn't hamper the performance of the device. So you can actually use that and ensure that the child is safe and your device is also not compromised by the way of performance.
Thank you, Suhas. And just relating to the same, I have we did see a slide on laws in India that are available. So I just want to check:
Mhm.
is there any kind of helpline number that is generally available in
Yes,
India?
yes, you have that 1098 available in India,
Mm-hmm.
where you can,
Okay.
it's a 24/7 helpline that is there to help any child in distress. So make use of it. And as informed earlier, and I would like to re-emphasize that punishment is the best deterrent. So the online abusers will reduce, and their confidence will reduce if they see prior examples of people being punished. More often than not, what happens is that when someone is bullied, we just uh, ignore it and think that why to get into trouble with the cops or with the law and all those things. And that gives confidence to the abuser. He is confident that he will not get caught because there's no complaint in the first place. So laws are there, helplines are there, but they are only as effective if you complain. If there is a complaint, and it will also help a lot if there is evidence that has been captured against the cyberbully. So just be prudent. So when you see something happening, ensure that the cyber criminal is caught, and that becomes an example for potential cyberbullies, and they will not cyberbully. They'll think twice before racially profiling a kid or harming a kid online.
Okay. And one last question from my end, Suhas. I understand the moment a kid has been bullied, cyber bullied. The thing is that as parents, we did see a slide. What would be our responsibility as well? So I want to understand the kids' mindset at that point of time would not be able to focus on anything else. As a parent, what or how should we go ahead and make sure that the kid is comforted and brought back to normal?
Basically, you would have to respond to the situation. Being parents, we ourselves would be under a lot of pressure because of our day-to-day lives. So just ensure that we do not put that burden on our kids. Ensure that you don't react to that situation, just respond to that situation. If you believe that the child is not at fault, there's no point in punishing the kid. You should do the opposite, in fact. You should comfort the kid, ensure that his anxiety levels, his stress levels are brought down by comforting. And once the kid is a little bit more comfortable, he or she would definitely talk to you more about the particular incident, and it would give you more information on that incident to ensure that you have sufficient evidence to get the perpetrator stopped.
Thank you, Suhas. Open to the participants.
This is Karan here, Suhas. It was a super excellent presentation. Thank you for that. And actually, one question I have, basically, when you talk about online and you see the, without online, few decades ago, we don't have online as well. So how do you see, how you can nurture or cultivate your child back in the olden days? So what is your view on that? Instead of, we as in kind of this awareness, make them comfort when they are online. At the same time, we have to have like the parents should have a culture of nurturing them in a way how they are molded in their, olden days. So what is your view on that?
Thank you, Karnan, for that question. In the olden days, as you pointed out, we did not have the internet. But right now we have the internet. And what we don't have is a joint family kind of structure. So more often than not, right now, it's a nuclear family for various reasons, good and bad. So when it's a nuclear family, when both the parents are actually working, you tend to give these devices to the children so that you're not disturbed. So what happens is that the child too requires some medium to explore because child is naturally curious in nature. So previously in the olden days, that curiosity and the questions were patiently answered by grandparents or an uncle or aunt, and with the help of your local encyclopedia books. That's how I remember my grandfather patiently answering my questions. I did not have internet when I was a kid, like most of us do. But we did have a large family, an extended family as such. So that is not there. So what is lacking today as well is people tend to socialize more on the net rather than with the actual people, with the actual neighbors, in fact. So you may know people thousands of miles away, but you may not know your next door neighbor in most of these cases. And very surprisingly, a few of the kids do not know their uncles and aunts. So that kind of environment, if it changes, the dependency on the internet and exposure to these online criminals because of that exposure would reduce.
Thank you, Suhas.
Thank you, Colonel.
Any other questions? I assume there is no questions from anyone else. Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here, and thanks again for joining us today. We will see you soon in our next webinar. Meanwhile, you can connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube to get notified on our new release and events. Thank you. Have a lovely evening ahead. Signing off, Matthew Mohan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Suhas.